Matt Canada yesterday answered in possibly the worst way possible about how the Pittsburgh Steelers could fix their offense. When asked about the boos, he ignored the fire Canada chants. He acknowledged it, said that, it is what it is. He's proud of his team. I thought it was just a world-class deflection of, hey, did you hear everybody chanting to fire you? Yeah, I'm real confident in the guys. Yeah, so are the fans. They were not yelling at the guys. Nobody was booing the guys. They were booing you. Obviously, the team as a whole, world-class deflections, absolutely killing it. Then he was asked, how do you fix it? And his answer was very simple. Long quote, I'll break it all down for you. Quote, a lot of things, we've got to be more consistent. We've got to be better. Every facet of our game could be a little bit better. There's no magical answer to this, I don't believe, other than I'm very proud and excited about where our players are with it. There's nobody pointing fingers except for the fans. There's nobody throwing in the towel. We are 1-1. We're fortunate to be there. Great job by all our components, but we won a game against a really good team. It's much easier to do that when you win a game. We're going to just keep fighting until we get the way we had it in the summer, the way we had it in camp. We've got to get ourselves back to that. It's a challenge for all of us, and we're working really hard to find what that is. I don't have an answer for you. Mike Tomlin said that they got to find the mojo. Matt Canada was asked, how do you find the mojo? Matt Canada's response, I have no idea how to find the mojo. You dove into the tape, okay? What are your thoughts on Matt Canada's comments? What are your thoughts on how the Pittsburgh Steelers could find their mojo?
That first comment from Canada where he deflects towards the players kind of reminds me of the Garfield meme where when he looks at himself, he's like, I wonder who that's for. but yeah, it's not pretty from the Steelers. I mean, it's not just the play calling, it's also the execution. There's a lot of missed blocks. Like there was an instance where Pickett dropped back to pass and the protection slid to the right, and he ends up having unblocked pressure come from the B gap from Isaac Somali's side because he was sliding over, and then Jalen Warren's going out for a pass, so he has to deal with the free runner. It's stuff like that just should not be happening with the execution on this team. And then you look at the play calling, and what I'm seeing in particular from Matt Canada in that regard is the intermediate section of the field. He's not giving clear answers for Kenny Pickett in regards to how he splits up the concepts field to field. So one side of the field, he could have like just mirrored concepts all around. Like he ran triple slants on the interception that ended up happening. And Pat Freiermuth, he's running towards the defensive leverage, so it makes it so easy for Grant Delpit to just say, hey, I'm passing this off to you. Let me go underneath and jump the route. And a lot of people might kill Pickett for it. I certainly did when I saw it live, but when you look at the film, it's a Paul that's coached to be out quickly, and he has to get his eyes back around as quickly as possible. So obviously, you got to get in a situation where that defender he can be able to get the defender out of the way via the play concept, but that's just not how it happened.
Is that, Steven, we'll toss it over to you here. You obviously, Nick did the film dive. We've done the analytics of Matt Canada's terrible quotes. Your thoughts on the quote? Your thoughts on how Nick broke down that interception?
Yeah, Matt Canada's used to this. Like this is
3 years in a row.
Right. This is right up his alley. Not directly answering questions, not like, and I get it, like you can't really respond to boos in a way. Like Mike Tomlin, I think always has the best answer about like when we get booed, it's an indictment of ourselves. It's not an indictment of anyone else. People don't boo for no reason. But yeah, I mean, this whole team is really, they got coached up on how to deflect from the booing and just pretend like there must be some kind of force field over the field at Acrisure Stadium, because apparently no one except for Mike Tomlin can hear when
in the press box in the box. Canada's in the box. He was 14 feet from me. I heard it loud and clear. I couldn't hear the person next to me. That's how loud I heard it.
Yeah. So like apparently only one person who's on the field or in the press box at Acrisure Stadium is able to hear what the fans are actually saying, which is pretty incredible. but yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know what he's supposed to say, other than, yeah, I heard him. It sucks. We've got to turn this around, and I don't want to, let our fans down. So like, I don't know. I guess I don't put so much stock into his answer. But
Yeah.
like Nick said on that, about that interception, like I felt like Delpit was in a position to cover two receivers. Like the guy he was covering wasn't the one that ball was intended for, and it was three slants that were all run to the same area of the field. And I feel like that's something you see a lot with Matt Canada is receiver routes that are run in ways that don't actually create space for anyone. They don't create easy throws. They don't create lanes. It's forces Kenny to make a really difficult throw, make really difficult decision really quickly. It does not make things easy on him. And that's not to excuse Kenny for making a bad decision or throwing a bad ball, but I feel like he was also put in a pretty bad spot, especially on that play that you were talking about, Nick.
So,
Yeah.
Nick, let me ask you this then: Is this all on Like, is this a Canada thing? Is this because just like you said, the offensive line been very underwhelming. Kenny Pickett stinks right now. But are there things that everybody wants to compare to other offensive coordinators? You know what I mean? If this was a Kyle Shanahan offense, Kenny Pickett wouldn't have to be this stressed out. You know what I mean? There'd be running block concepts that do this and this. And if it was whoever, is that a justifiable defense for why it's Matt Canada's fault, or is we putting too much blame in one spot?
I think it's the fact it's year 3 and we're still making these terrible mistakes. Like we're still asking Mason Cole to block a 3 technique on wide zone going laterally, and I'm miffed by what they're asking him to do. But also just the protection breakdowns is another aspect. And then you just look at the intermediate side of the field. When your best play calls is when I'm having to talk up a mesh concept when they free up Calvin Austin on for a play that should have gone for quite a bit, but Kenny ended up
underthrown him by
mustard.
20 yards. Oh no, different one. Yeah,
it was behind him. He ended up throwing it too hard was what happened. We'll get to Kenny in a little bit, but but Canada as a whole, he is the biggest problem right now with this offense. There's one of the problems I ended up seeing when the Steelers were calling some of those concepts is it could have just benefited more from running it under center and being able to run play action. And Canada apparently had the absolute worst answer to about play action concepts. And I could not believe it at the time, because he's talking about how play action gets better as the game goes on. That's a myth. That's not actually true. The analytics will tell you this, and often just having the threat of the run brings those linebackers up. And we saw in that game, the linebackers were playing so far up, especially when the Steelers were going to run, because they have obvious tells that I'm not that privy to overall, but they have those tells, and they need to just be able to, one, take advantage of what's happening in that situation, and also just be able to like run more under center play action drop back game, because part of the issue is they're running these concepts in the middle of the field, and these linebackers are just they have so much depth that there's almost no shot of the throw being completed.
Nick, would you be willing to flesh that out a little bit more about play action doesn't get better as the game goes on, just for layman like me, like could you explain that a little bit further?
So essentially, the threat of the run itself is enough to have the linebackers come up. And if you're running from under center, a lot of times, you can get your shoulder, you can sell the run fake really well with the ability to just, with the quarterback. But in general, running the ball obviously would be more effective for, in theory, for play action. But it's the threat itself that it presents that will allow play action to do its job. And the Steelers, they have 2 good running backs. The Browns were afraid of those running backs.
Yeah.
That's why they were just absolutely teeing off in the box. Like they knew they had to stop those guys.
Did you see the, I want to say it was Warren Sapp, maybe I'm getting that name wrong.
Warren Sharp.
Warren Sharp, thank you. Who broke down the Canada stuff. Did you watch that video? What were your thoughts on that video?
I didn't watch the video, but from what I saw, it was a lot of stuff that we kind of already knew.
Yeah, like a lot of, but the stats in it, I think something was the Steelers like almost never run or always throw out a shotgun, like
Yes.
almost 100% of the time. Never run out of shotgun. Did I get that one right?
Yes.
Where do you go from there? Like, how do you how much of that? Here's my question: how much of that is just the fact that the offense is so bad right now that the amount of plays is very limited to come up with this stat, and how much, like, if they just simply switch it, how much does that positively impact defenses having less of an idea of what's going on?
So, to answer like your question about like, I'm sorry, I lost you for a second.
How simple is it? Or no. My first question was this: when it's such a limited portion of plays, you know what I'm saying? The Steelers, I mean, what do they average? Like 3 plays a drive? You know, it's a very small sample size. How much does that impact those stats to say like, okay, maybe we should just take a breather before we start really diving into that stuff? And if they do switch it, how, like, you know, is that just like an easy fix to just say like, oh, okay, well now it's fine, everything's good?
I think when this has been happening for 3 straight years under Canada, it starts to become pretty obvious who's at fault with this whole thing, and it's just frustrating because you see the formation. It's like, oh, they're obviously going to run it here, and then they run it, and then they're in shotgun. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, this is a clear pass, clear as day.
Can you see end arounds when you're watching a game? Do you know when they're going to do an end around?
Not quite.
Jet sweep?
I'm not too privy to that. I think what happened there was the linebacker was able to avoid the tackle who was coming up, and that's why he was able to get in the backfield so quickly.
All right, I want to talk.
It's more so the situational play call was just that stupid because they were running the ball that effectively.
What about the 3rd and 1? What about the 3rd and 1? The handoff, the play. Obviously, Kenny, everybody knows the play. The 3rd and 1. Do you think that was an option? I thought it was an option. Matt Canada would not answer what the play was. I thought it was an option, and if Kenny hands that ball off, it's first down. But maybe I'm wrong.
I think that works better when you're actually closer to the red zone as opposed to doing this on 3rd and 1, because they were teeing off on both sides of the ball. Not just that, it was very key for Allen Robinson to make one of the clear blocks, like he had one of the key blocks that he had to make. Which, by the way, why are we not running to George Pickens' side when he's the best blocking receiver on the team?
Yeah, we're putting Miles Boykin out there. Miles Boykin's a great run blocker. Like, what are we?
Yeah, I mean, Miles Boykin can run block too. I don't really understand what's going on with that whole idea. I mean, Pickens gets a lot of physicality in the run game. He's able to move guys. He's faster moving laterally. That's something like that was a really hard block for Allen Robinson to be able to make. And, you know, Darnell Washington, obviously he did the best he could on his block. Those 2 players were the most responsible to make that play happen. But
that's who you want on 3rd and short in a very crucial moment when you're
running football. I'm not necessarily as angry about that play call as most people, but when you have so many frustrations over the Steelers play calling as a whole, you start to get annoyed at them outsmarting themselves.